The satellite phone crackled to life at 0347 hours, piercing through the humid darkness of the Horn of Africa like a blade through silence. Lieutenant Zoe Hartwell jolted awake in her bunk aboard the USS Leyte Gulf, her hand instinctively reaching for the encrypted device before her mind had fully processed the sound. 3 years of SEAL operations had trained her body to respond before her brain caught up. A reflexive alertness that had kept her alive through countless missions in hostile waters. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The voice on the other end was strained, desperate, fighting through static and what sounded like distant shouting. This is Captain Bradley of the merchant vessel Prosperity. We are under attack by armed pirates approximately 40 nautical miles southeast of Socotra Island. They have boarded our vessel. Repeat, we have been boarded by hostile forces. Zoe's blood ran cold, not from the familiar sound of a distress call, but from the passenger manifest she had memorized 3 days earlier when her brother Dylan's cargo ship had departed from the Port of Djibouti. The Prosperity was carrying humanitarian supplies to Yemen, part of an international relief effort that Dylan had volunteered to oversee as a logistics coordinator for global maritime relief. The same Dylan who had laughed at her military aspirations just 18 months ago, calling her a weekend warrior playing dress-up when she'd announced her intention to try out for the SEAL. The morning that would change everything between Zoe and Dylan Hartwell had started like any other family gathering in their childhood home in Norfolk, Virginia. The autumn of 2021 painted the Chesapeake Bay region in brilliant golds and crimsons, and the Hartwell family had assembled for their annual barbecue, a tradition that Frank Hartwell had maintained ever since retiring from 25 years of Coast Guard service. The backyard was filled with the comfortable chaos of extended family, the scent of grilling burgers mixing with the salt air that perpetually hung over their waterfront neighborhood. Zoe had arrived in her National Guard uniform, fresh from weekend drill, her boots still dusty from the training exercises at Fort Lee. At 26, she possessed the lean, athletic build that came from years of competitive swimming and military fitness regimens. Her dark hair pulled back in the regulation bun that had become second nature. She moved with the confident efficiency of someone accustomed to command, though at that point her leadership experience was limited to her role as a staff sergeant in a logistics unit that deployed to domestic disaster relief operations. Dylan, 2 years older and bearing the broader shoulders and easy smile that had made him popular throughout high school and college, was holding court near the pool, regaling their cousins with stories from his latest assignment overseeing supply chain operations for a major shipping company. His work took him to ports around the world, and he had developed a cosmopolitan confidence that he wore like an expensive suit. Where Zoe had chosen the structured discipline of military service, Dylan had embraced the freewheeling world of international commerce, building a reputation as someone who could navigate the complex logistics of moving cargo through some of the world's most challenging ports. The tension between the siblings had been building for months, fueled by their fundamental disagreement about what constituted real service to others. Dylan viewed Zoe's military career as an extension of their father's influence, a safe path that provided structure and benefits without requiring the kind of entrepreneurial risk-taking that he believed defined true leadership. Zoe in turn saw Dylan's corporate success as self-serving, divorced from any larger purpose beyond personal advancement and financial gain. The confrontation erupted during what should have been a lighthearted conversation about their respective career paths. Their cousin Marcus, a recent college graduate uncertain about his future, had asked both siblings for advice about choosing between a stable government job and a position with a startup company. Dylan had launched into his usual speech about the importance of taking risks and building something meaningful in the private sector. The problem with government work, Dylan said, gesturing toward Zoe with his beer bottle, is that it creates this illusion of importance without any real accountability. You show up for your weekend warrior exercises, follow orders that someone else made, and convince yourself you're making a difference. But when it comes down to it, you're just playing soldier while other people do the actual work of solving real problems. The words hit Zoe like a physical blow, not just because of their dismissive tone, but because they echoed doubts she had been harboring about her own career trajectory. The National Guard had provided valuable training and a sense of purpose, but she had been growing increasingly restless with the limitations of her role. The disaster relief deployments, while meaningful, felt reactive rather than proactive. She had been secretly researching the requirements for Navy SEAL training, driven by a desire to prove herself in the most demanding military environment possible. Weekend warrior, Zoe repeated, her voice carrying a dangerous edge that their parents recognized from childhood arguments. You think coordinating disaster relief in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria was playing soldier? You think the families whose homes we rebuilt care whether I was active duty or National Guard? Dylan, either oblivious to the rising tension or deliberately provocative, pressed his advantage. I'm not saying the work isn't important, Zoe. I'm saying that you're choosing the easy path. Following orders, working within established systems, never having to make the hard decisions or take real responsibility for outcomes. When I mess up in my job, companies lose millions of dollars and people lose their livelihoods. When you mess up, you get reassigned to a different unit. Frank Hartwell, who had been quietly tending the grill while monitoring the conversation, finally intervened with the diplomatic skills that had served him well during his Coast Guard career. Dylan, that's enough. Your sister's service has value, and comparing your careers like this isn't productive for anyone. But the damage was done. Zoe felt the sting of Dylan's words settling into her consciousness like a splinter that would continue to irritate long after the immediate pain had faded. She had always looked up to her older brother, admired his confidence and success, and his casual dismissal of her military service felt like a betrayal of everything she had worked to achieve. Linda Hartwell, ever the peacemaker, tried to redirect the conversation towards safer topics, but the comfortable family dynamic had been shattered. The remainder of the barbecue passed in strained politeness, with both siblings making an effort to avoid each other while maintaining the pretense of normalcy for the sake of their extended family. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom, Zoe made a decision that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of her life. She opened her laptop and began researching the Navy SEAL training pipeline with the methodical thoroughness that had served her well throughout her military career. The statistics were daunting. Fewer than 25% of candidates who attempted SEAL training successfully completed the program, and the failure rate for women was even higher due to the recent integration of previously male-only Special Operations Unit. The physical requirements alone were intimidating. The initial screening test required candidates to swim 500 yards in 12.5 minutes, complete 50 push-ups in 2 minutes, 50 sit-ups in 2 minutes, perform 10 pull-ups with no time limit, and run 1.5 miles in 10.5 minutes. These were just the minimum standards. The actual training would push candidates far beyond these baseline requirements through months of increasingly demanding physical and mental challenges. But it was the psychological evaluation criteria that gave Zoe the most pause. SEAL training was designed to identify individuals who possessed not just physical capabilities, but the mental resilience to function effectively under extreme stress. The program deliberately created conditions of controlled suffering designed to eliminate candidates who lacked the psychological fortitude necessary for special operations missions. As she read testimonials from SEAL graduates, Zoe began to understand that the training was not just about building military capabilities, but about fundamentally transforming the individuals who survived the process. The program stripped away civilian identities and rebuilt them as elite warriors capable of operating in the most demanding environments on Earth. It was exactly the kind of challenge that Dylan had suggested she was too comfortable to attempt. The application process itself was complex, requiring not just military records and fitness assessments, but extensive psychological evaluations and background investigation. As a National Guard member, Zoe would need to transfer to active duty Navy status, a process that would require her to commit to additional years of military service beyond the SEAL training pipeline. The decision represented more than just a career change. It was a complete restructuring of her life around a single consuming goal. SEAL training would require her to relocate to Coronado, California for an indefinite period, effectively ending her civilian career and social relationships in Virginia. Success would mean assignment to a SEAL team with deployment schedules that could take her anywhere in the world at short notice. Failure would mean reassignment to a conventional Navy unit, a prospect that carried its own professional and personal implications. Over the following weeks, Zoe threw herself into physical preparation with an intensity that surprised even her. She increased her swimming training to twice daily sessions, alternating between pool work and open water swimming in the Chesapeake Bay. Her running mileage increased incrementally, and she added martial arts training to develop the combat skills that would be essential for special operations work. The mental preparation proved equally demanding. SEAL training was notorious for its emphasis on psychological resilience, and Zoe began practicing meditation and stress management techniques, designed to help her maintain focus under extreme pressure. She read extensively about the history and culture of Special Operations Forces, understanding that success would require not just physical capabilities, but a deep commitment to the values and traditions of the SEAL community. Her family's reaction to her decision was mixed and complicated. Frank supported her ambition while expressing concerns about the risks and demands of special operations service. Linda worried about the physical and emotional toll of SEAL training, particularly given the program's reputation for breaking down candidates both physically and psychologically. Dylan's response was notably absent. He had maintained cordial but distant communication since the barbecue confrontation, and Zoe chose not to inform him of her plans until after she had been accepted into the training pipeline. The months of preparation culminated in a grueling selection process that tested every aspect of Zoe's physical and mental capabilities. The physical screening examination pushed her to her absolute limits, and she barely met the minimum standards in several categories. The psychological evaluation proved equally challenging, requiring her to demonstrate not just mental stability, but the specific personality traits that SEAL instructors believed were essential for success in special operations environments. When the acceptance notification arrived via encrypted email, Zoe felt a mixture of elation and terror that she had never experienced before. She had achieved something that most military personnel never attempted, but she also understood that acceptance was merely the first step in a process that would either transform her into an elite warrior or destroy her attempts to prove herself worthy of special operations service.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
The conversation with her family about her acceptance was emotional and complex. Frank expressed pride in her achievement while emphasizing the importance of maintaining perspective about the challenges ahead. Linda struggled to hide her anxiety about the dangers and demands of SEAL training. Dylan, when finally informed of her plans, responded with what Zoe interpreted as grudging respect tinged with skepticism about her ability to complete the program. "I have to admit, I didn't think you had it in you to even try something like this," Dylan said during a tense phone conversation. "SEAL training is no joke, Zoe. It's designed to break people. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of commitment?" The question stung because it echoed Zoe's own doubts about her readiness for the challenges ahead. But it also strengthened her resolve to prove that her military service represented more than just following orders and playing it safe. SEAL training would demonstrate, once and for all, whether she possessed the courage and capability to excel in the most demanding military environment possible. Her departure for Coronado represented a definitive break with her previous life. She sold her car, stored her belongings, and said goodbye to friends and colleagues who understood that her absence would be indefinite, and that her return, if it occurred at all, would be as a fundamentally changed person. The flight to California felt like a journey into the unknown, carrying her toward a future that would either validate her decision to pursue the most challenging path possible, or confirm Dylan's assessment that she was unprepared for real leadership and responsibility. The landscape of Southern California, visible through the aircraft window as they approached San Diego, represented more than just a new geographic location. It was the setting for a transformation that would either prove her worth or destroy her confidence forever. The Naval Amphibious Base, Coronado, home to the SEAL training complex, loomed in her future like a crucible that would test every assumption she had ever held about her own capabilities and limitations. As the plane touched down and Zoe gathered her belongings for the next phase of her journey, she carried with her not just the standard equipment and documentation required for military training, but the weight of her family's expectations and Dylan's casual dismissal of her military aspirations. The months ahead would determine whether her decision to pursue SEAL training represented genuine courage and commitment, or merely an elaborate attempt to prove something to a brother who might never acknowledge her achievements regardless of their scope or difficulty. The challenge that awaited her at Coronado would strip away everything comfortable and familiar, forcing her to discover whether she possessed the fundamental qualities necessary for special operations service. Dylan's words about weekend warriors and real responsibility would either be proven accurate, or revealed as the narrow perspective of someone who had never tested himself against the absolute limits of human endurance and capability. Walking across the tarmac toward her new life, Zoe understood that she was embarking on a journey that would redefine not just her relationship with her brother, but her understanding of her own potential for growth and transformation under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. The first day of basic underwater demolition SEAL training, known to instructors and candidates alike as BUD/SPIDES, began at 0430 hours, with the sound of metal trash cans being dragged across concrete and instructors shouting commands that echoed through the pre-dawn darkness of Coronado Beach. Zoe's eyes snapped open in her Spartan barracks room, her body already moving toward her gear before her mind had fully processed the cacophony outside. The months of preparation had conditioned her for early mornings, but nothing could have truly prepared her for the systematic intensity that defined every moment of SEAL training. Chief Petty Officer Martinez, a compact man whose weathered face bore the scars of 15 years in special operations, stood silhouetted against the pale morning light streaming through the barracks window. His voice carried the authority of someone who had survived multiple combat deployments and returned to pass on that hard-earned knowledge to the next generation of warriors. "Welcome to the first day of the rest of your very short military careers," Martinez announced to the assembled candidates, his words delivered with the casual brutality that would characterize the next 6 months. "Most of you will not be here next week, some of you will not be here tomorrow. The ocean doesn't care about your college degrees, your previous military experience, or your personal motivation. It only cares whether you have what it takes to keep fighting when every rational part of your brain is telling you to quit." The initial physical training session served as both introduction and elimination round, designed to identify candidates whose preparation had been inadequate for the demands ahead. Zoe found herself struggling to keep pace with some of the male candidates, whose upper body strength provided significant advantages in the pull-up and rope climbing exercise. But her swimming background proved invaluable during the pool exercises, where her technique and endurance allowed her to complete the underwater knot-tying drills with efficiency that impressed even the notoriously critical instructor. The psychological pressure began immediately, with instructors creating scenarios designed to test candidates' ability to function under stress. During a seemingly routine equipment inspection, Martinez suddenly began screaming at Zoe about imaginary deficiencies in her gear, his face inches from hers as he questioned her intelligence, dedication and suitability for special operations service. The intensity was designed to simulate the stress of combat situations, where clear thinking under pressure could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. "Hartwell, you think this is summer camp?" Martinez shouted, his voice rising above the sound of waves crashing against the beach. "You think the enemy is going to wait while you take your time organizing your equipment? In the real world, hesitation gets people killed. Incompetence gets your teammates killed. Are you going to be the weak link that destroys your team?" The verbal assault continued for what felt like hours but was actually only minutes, testing Zoe's ability to maintain composure while receiving harsh criticism of her performance. She forced herself to respond with crisp acknowledgments of the instructor's commands, understanding that any sign of emotional breakdown or defensive reaction would be interpreted as evidence of unsuitability for special operations service. The pool training exercises proved to be among the most challenging aspects of the early training weeks. Candidates were required to complete increasingly complex underwater tasks, while instructors actively interfered with their equipment and created emergency scenarios that tested their ability to problem-solve under extreme stress. The drown-proofing exercises required candidates to swim 50 meters, tread water for 5 minutes, and perform various tasks while their hands and feet were bound, simulating the survival skills necessary if captured or disabled during water operations. Zoe's swimming background provided some advantages, but the psychological pressure of the exercises created challenges that pure athletic ability could not overcome. During one particularly demanding session, an instructor repeatedly removed her diving mask and tangled her breathing apparatus, forcing her to solve equipment problems, while managing her air supply and maintaining her position in the water. The exercise was designed to simulate the chaos of underwater combat operations, where equipment failures and enemy interference could create life-threatening situations, requiring immediate and effective responses. The academic components of SEAL training proved equally demanding, requiring candidates to master complex technical skills ranging from explosive ordnance disposal to advanced navigation techniques. Zoe found herself studying late into the night, memorizing the specifications of various weapon systems and the chemical properties of different explosive compounds. The coursework was intensive and unforgiving, with failing grades in any subject resulting in immediate dismissal from the program. Navigation training took place both in classroom settings and in practical field exercises that tested candidates' ability to find their way across unfamiliar terrain using only basic equipment. Zoe learned to use compass and map readings to navigate through the dense fog that frequently obscured the California coastline, developing the spatial awareness and attention to detail that would be essential for special operations missions conducted in hostile territory where GPS systems might be unavailable or compromised. The weapons training component introduced candidates to the full range of firearms and explosive devices that SEAL teams employed in their operations. Zoe had previous military experience with standard infantry weapons, but the SEAL arsenal included specialized equipment, that required extensive training to master safely and effectively. She learned to field strip and maintain assault rifles, sniper systems, and various crew-served weapons under time pressure and in conditions designed to simulate the stress of combat operations. Medical training formed another crucial component of the curriculum, as SEAL team members were expected to provide emergency medical care to wounded teammates in situations where traditional medical evacuation might be impossible or delayed. Zoe practiced combat first aid techniques on realistic training dummies, learning to treat gunshot wounds, explosive injuries, and environmental trauma under simulated combat conditions. The training emphasized speed and efficiency, as the difference between immediate and delayed medical intervention could determine whether wounded team members survived to receive advanced medical care. The infamous Hell Week represented the climactic test of the initial training phase. 5.5 days of continuous physical and mental challenges designed to eliminate candidates who lacked the psychological resilience necessary for special operations service. The week began on Sunday evening and continued without break until the following Friday, with candidates allowed a total of only 4 hours of sleep during the entire period. Zoe entered Hell Week with a mixture of anticipation and dread, understanding that the next 5 days would determine whether her months of preparation had been adequate for the ultimate test of SEAL training. The sleep deprivation and physical exhaustion were designed to push candidates beyond their normal limits, forcing them to discover whether they possessed the mental toughness to continue functioning when their bodies and minds were demanding surrender. The exercises during Hell Week included long-distance ocean swims in frigid water, extended runs across soft sand that sapped strength and endurance, and boat drills that required precise teamwork under extreme time pressure. The boat teams were composed of 6 candidates who were required to carry, launch, and navigate heavy inflatable boats through surf conditions that ranged from challenging to dangerous. Success required not just individual performance, but the ability to work effectively as part of a team when everyone was operating at the edge of their physical capabilities. Zoe's boat team included Marcus Thompson, a former Marine infantry officer whose leadership experience proved invaluable during the chaotic boat exercises, Jake Rodriguez, a college wrestler whose compact build and explosive strength made him excellent at the carrying drills, and 3 other candidates whose diverse backgrounds and personalities created both opportunities for teamwork and potential sources of friction under stress. The cold water exposure during Hell Week tested candidates' ability to function despite hypothermia and exhaustion that impaired both physical coordination and mental clarity. Zoe learned to manage the progressive loss of fine motor skills that accompanied prolonged exposure to cold water, developing techniques for maintaining equipment functionality and tactical awareness even when her body temperature had dropped to dangerous levels. Sleep deprivation created its own unique challenges, as candidates were required to perform complex tasks and follow detailed instructions while their minds struggled with hallucinations and disorientation that accompanied extreme fatigue. Zoe found herself seeing movement that wasn't there and hearing conversations that existed only in her exhausted imagination. The ability to distinguish between reality and fatigue-induced perceptions became a crucial survival skill, as mistakes caused by disorientation could result in equipment damage or safety violations that would lead to immediate dismissal from the program. The teamwork aspects of Hell Week proved to be among the most revealing elements of the training, as the extreme stress and exhaustion stripped away social pretenses and revealed the fundamental character traits that determined how individuals responded to crisis situations. Some candidates who had appeared confident and capable during the earlier training phases broke down under the pressure, becoming liabilities to their teammates and ultimately choosing to withdraw from the program rather than continue struggling. Others, including some who had struggled with individual challenges, demonstrated unexpected reserves of determination and loyalty to their teammates that impressed even the cynical instructor. Zoe observed how crisis situations revealed the true nature of leadership and followership, as formal rank and previous experience became less important than the ability to contribute effectively to team success under extreme circumstances. The psychological pressure during Hell Week was amplified by the constant presence of instructors who monitored every action and reaction for signs of weakness or unsuitability for special operations service. The instructors created scenarios designed to test candidates' decision-making abilities under stress, presenting them with problems that had no clear solutions and evaluating their responses for evidence of creativity, persistence, and sound judgment. One particularly challenging exercise required Zoe's boat team to transport their equipment across a series of obstacles while instructors actively interfered with their progress and created artificial emergencies that demanded immediate responses. The scenario was designed to simulate the unpredictable nature of special operations missions, where careful planning could be disrupted by unexpected developments requiring rapid adaptation and innovative problem solving. The mental exhaustion created by sleep deprivation and continuous stress testing pushed candidates to their psychological breaking points, forcing them to confront their deepest fears and insecurities about their own capabilities. Zoe found herself questioning whether she possessed the fundamental qualities necessary for special operations service, particularly during the darkest hours of the week when exhaustion made every challenge seem insurmountable. The support and encouragement of her teammates proved crucial during these moments of doubt, as the shared suffering created bonds of loyalty and mutual dependence that transcended the individual competition inherent in the training program. Marcus Thompson emerged as an informal leader within their boat team, using his experience and natural authority to maintain morale and cohesion when individual motivation began to flag. Jake Rodriguez demonstrated an unexpected gift for humor that helped the team maintain perspective during the most difficult moments, finding ways to inject levity into situations that might otherwise have become overwhelmingly serious. His ability to make others laugh despite their exhaustion and discomfort proved to be a valuable leadership quality that contributed significantly to team effectiveness. The final night of Hell Week represented the ultimate test of everything the candidates had learned about themselves and their teammates during the preceding day. The exhaustion was so complete that some candidates were having difficulty maintaining basic motor functions, yet the exercises continued to demand precise execution and attention to detail that could mean the difference between success and failure. Zoe discovered reserves of determination that she had never known existed, finding ways to continue functioning despite physical and mental exhaustion that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. The experience taught her that the human capacity for endurance and achievement extended far beyond what most people ever imagined possible, and that the primary limitations on performance were often psychological rather than physical. The moment when Hell Week officially ended, marked by the instructor's announcement that the surviving candidates had completed the most challenging phase of initial training, created an emotional release that was both profound and transformative. Zoe felt a sense of accomplishment that exceeded anything she had previously experienced, not just because of the personal achievement, but because of the bonds she had formed with teammates who had shared the intensity of the experience. The statistics were sobering. Of the original class of 87 candidates who had begun BUDS training, only 32 remained after Hell Week. The attrition rate was consistent with historical averages, but the human cost of each withdrawal represented dreams deferred and aspirations that had proven insufficient to overcome the systematic challenges of SEAL training. For those who survived, Hell Week marked a fundamental transformation in their understanding of their own capabilities and limitations. Zoe realized that she had discovered not just physical endurance but psychological resilience that would serve her throughout her military career and beyond. The experience had stripped away many of her previous assumptions about what was possible, replacing them with confidence based on tested performance under extreme conditions. The weeks following Hell Week focused on advanced training and specialized skills that would be essential for operational deployment. Candidates learned small unit tactics, advanced weapons systems, and the planning processes used to design and execute special operations missions. The training was intensive and detailed, requiring mastery of complex procedures that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure in real-world operations. Zoe excelled in the tactical training exercises, her analytical mind proving well-suited to the systematic approach required for mission planning and execution. She learned to evaluate threats, assess resources, and develop contingency plans that accounted for the unpredictable variables that characterized special operations environments. The training emphasized flexibility and creativity, as successful SEAL operations often required innovative solutions to problems that had no standard procedures. The marksmanship training pushed candidates to achieve levels of precision that far exceeded standard military requirements. Zoe spent hours on the shooting ranges, learning to engage targets at extended distances under various lighting and weather conditions. The training included both individual marksmanship and team shooting exercises that required coordination and mutual support between multiple shooters engaging different targets simultaneously. Advanced swimming and diving techniques formed another crucial component of the specialized training phase. Candidates learned to use closed-circuit diving equipment that left no bubble trail, making underwater infiltration missions possible in hostile waters where detection would mean mission failure or capture. The equipment was complex and potentially dangerous, requiring extensive training to operate safely and effectively. As the training program neared completion, Zoe began to understand how the various skills and experiences had combined to create capabilities that exceeded the sum of their individual components. The physical conditioning, psychological resilience, technical expertise and teamwork abilities had been integrated into a comprehensive skill set that would enable her to function effectively as a member of an elite special operations unit. The graduation ceremony represented both an ending and a beginning, marking the completion of the most challenging training program in the United States military while simultaneously serving as the initiation into a community of warriors whose bonds would last throughout their careers and beyond. Zoe stood with her surviving classmates, understanding that they had achieved something that most people would never attempt and that fewer still would complete successfully. The assignment to SEAL Team 6 came with a mixture of pride and apprehension, as Zoe understood that she would now be expected to apply her training in real-world operations where the stakes were measured in human lives rather than training grade. The team to which she was assigned included experienced operators who had deployed to combat zones around the world, and she would need to prove herself worthy of their trust and confidence. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, known to his team as Tank due to his methodical approach to mission planning and his ability to absorb punishment without showing weakness, served as the team leader and would become Zoe's primary mentor during her initial operational assignment. His experience included multiple deployments to Afghanistan, Iraq, and various classified locations where SEAL teams conducted counter-terrorism operations. The team dynamics proved to be more welcoming than Zoe had anticipated, as her SEAL training had established her credibility with operators who judged newcomers based on proven performance rather than previous experience or personal background. Jake Thompson, the team's explosives expert known as Reaper, had actually been in the BUDS class immediately preceding Zoe's, and his first-hand knowledge of her training performance helped ease her integration into the team. Kai Nakamura, the communications and technology specialist called Ghost for his ability to infiltrate enemy networks without detection, brought a technical expertise that complemented Zoe's analytical skills and created opportunities for collaboration on mission planning and execution. His quiet confidence and attention to detail established him as a valuable resource for understanding the complex technological environment in which modern special operations were conducted. Chief Petty Officer Sam Washington, nicknamed Bulldog for his tenacious approach to problem-solving and his reluctance to accept defeat in any situation, served as the team's senior enlisted advisor and institutional memory. His 15 years of SEAL experience included operations in every major conflict zone where American Special Operations Forces had been deployed, and his guidance would prove invaluable as Zoe adapted to the realities of operational deployment. The team's first mission together involved a reconnaissance operation in the Gulf of Aden, gathering intelligence on suspected pirate bases operating from remote locations along the Somali coast. The mission was classified as low risk, designed to allow new team members to gain operational experience while contributing to the broader counter-piracy efforts that had become a major focus of international naval operations in the region. Zoe's role in the mission involved technical analysis of communication intercepts and surveillance data, using her training in electronic warfare and signals intelligence to identify patterns that might reveal the location and capabilities of pirate organizations. The work was detailed and demanding, requiring her to process large amounts of information and identify subtle indicators that might be overlooked by less trained analysts. The mission provided Zoe with her first exposure to the operational environment where she would eventually face the crisis that would test everything she had learned about herself and her capability. The waters off Somalia were dangerous and unpredictable, populated by heavily armed criminal organizations that had turned piracy into a sophisticated business enterprise, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in ransom payment. As she conducted surveillance operations from the deck of a destroyer positioned in international waters, Zoe could not have imagined that these same waters would soon become the setting for a personal crisis that would force her to apply her SEAL training in ways that went far beyond anything covered in the curriculum. The skills she was developing and the relationships she was building with her teammates would soon be tested in a situation where failure would mean the loss of someone she loved, regardless of their previous conflicts and misunderstanding. The distress call from the MV Prosperity reached the USS Leyte Gulf at 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning that would forever divide Zoe's life into before and after. She had been reviewing intelligence reports in the ship's communications center when the encrypted transmission crackled through the maritime emergency frequency, the voice of Captain Bradley cutting through static with the desperate clarity of a man watching his world collapse around. Mayday, Mayday, this is Merchant Vessel Prosperity, registry number Lima 779 Alpha. We are under attack by armed pirates approximately 40 nautical miles southeast of Socotra Island. They have boarded our vessel. We have 23 crew members and 4 civilian observers aboard. Request immediate assistance. Zoe's blood turned to ice water as the implications crashed over her. The Prosperity was Dylan's ship, carrying the humanitarian relief supplies he had been coordinating for global maritime relief. Her brother, who had dismissed her military service as playing soldier, was now trapped aboard a vessel under assault by Somali pirates who had transformed hostage-taking into a ruthless criminal enterprise. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez materialized beside her within seconds, his presence commanding immediate attention from the communication technicians who were already working to establish contact with the vessel and coordinate with naval forces in the region. Tank's weathered face showed no emotion as he processed the tactical situation, but Zoe could see the analytical mind that had kept his team alive through multiple combat deployments, already working through response options and resource requirements. "Hartwell, what do we know about the vessel's manifest and crew composition?" Rodriguez asked, his voice carrying the calm authority that made him effective in crisis situations. He was unaware of Zoe's personal connection to the ship, and she found herself facing an immediate decision about whether to reveal information that could compromise her objectivity during mission planning. "Sir, the Prosperity is a cargo vessel operated by Global Maritime Relief, carrying medical supplies and food aid destined for Yemeni ports," Zoe replied, her training allowing her to maintain professional composure despite the emotional turmoil threatening to overwhelm her rational thinking. According to the passenger manifest, there are 4 civilian logistics coordinators aboard supervising the relief cargo. She did not mention that one of those coordinators was her brother, a decision that she would question repeatedly in the hours that followed. Military protocol discouraged personal involvement in operational planning, and Rodriguez would likely remove her from any rescue mission if he understood her family connection to the crisis. But Zoe also understood that her knowledge of Dylan's capabilities and limitations could prove valuable during mission execution. The initial intelligence reports painted a grim picture of the tactical situation facing the Prosperity. Satellite imagery showed the vessel had been forced to reduce speed and was being shadowed by 2 smaller boats that appeared to be armed with heavy machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades. The pirates had demonstrated their willingness to use violence against crews who resisted their demands, and recent incidents had resulted in multiple casualties among both crew members and civilian passengers. Ghost materialized in the communication center with his characteristic silent efficiency, carrying encrypted tablets displaying real-time intelligence feeds from multiple sources. His technical expertise had transformed the team's ability to gather and analyze information during crisis situations, and his quiet competence provided a steadying influence when situations developed rapidly and demanded immediate response. "Commander, we're receiving additional communications from the Prosperity," Ghost reported, his voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. "The pirates appear to have taken control of the bridge and are demanding that the vessel change course toward the Somali coast. Captain Bradley is attempting to delay compliance while maintaining communication with rescue forces." The mention of delays sent a chill through Zoe's consciousness as she understood the implications for her brother and the other hostages. Somali pirates had developed sophisticated networks of coastal bases where captured vessels could be hidden from international naval forces while ransom negotiations proceeded. Once the Prosperity reached those coastal waters, any rescue operation would become exponentially more complex and dangerous. Reaper arrived with equipment manifests and mission planning materials, his explosive expertise making him invaluable for operations that might require breaching fortified positions or disabling vessel systems without causing collateral damage to hostages. His methodical approach to problem-solving complemented Rodriguez's strategic thinking, and together they began developing contingency plans for various rescue scenarios. "The pirates are using standard tactics for this region," Reaper observed as he studied satellite imagery of the hijacked vessel. "They've positioned their attack boats to prevent escape attempts while maintaining communication with shore-based coordinators who are directing the operation. We're looking at a professional organization with significant resources and experience." Bulldog joined the planning session with intelligence briefings on the specific pirate organization believed to be responsible for the attack. His extensive experience in the region had given him detailed knowledge of the various criminal groups operating along the Somali coast, and his insights into their tactics and capabilities would prove crucial for mission planning. "This is almost certainly Captain Hassan's organization," Bulldog announced, spreading reconnaissance photographs across the planning table. Ashraf Hassan, known as the Scorpion for his tendency to strike without warning and his reputation for extreme violence against crews who resist his demand. His group has been responsible for at least 12 successful hijackings in the past 18 months, and they've never released hostages without receiving full ransom payment. The intelligence briefing continued with disturbing details about Hassan's operational methods and his willingness to use violence as a negotiating tool. Recent incidents had involved the execution of crew members who attempted to resist pirate demands, and there were reports of hostages being tortured to encourage faster ransom payments from shipping companies and government. "Hassan operates from a fortified compound on Socotra Island," Bulldog continued, pointing to satellite imagery showing a remote coastal facility surrounded by defensive positions and guard towers. The location provides excellent protection from naval assault while maintaining communication capabilities with his operational vessels. If the Prosperity reaches that facility, any rescue operation will require significant resources and accept substantial risks to hostage safety. Rodriguez absorbed the intelligence briefings with the methodical thoroughness that characterized his approach to mission planning. His experience had taught him that successful special operations required comprehensive understanding of both tactical situations and the political environment surrounding military action. The rescue of the Prosperity would need to be coordinated with international naval forces and approved by command authorities who would evaluate the risks and benefits of various response options. The window for interdicting the vessel before it reaches coastal waters is approximately 6 hours, Rodriguez concluded after reviewing navigation charts and current intelligence estimates. After that point, we're looking at a much more complex operation with significantly higher risks to both hostages and rescue forces. Zoe found herself struggling to maintain professional objectivity as the planning session continued. Every tactical discussion about acceptable risks and mission parameters carried personal implications that threatened to compromise her ability to contribute effectively to the mission planning process. She understood that Dylan's safety, along with that of the other hostages, depended on decisions that would be made based on military rather than personal consideration. The communication center received additional transmissions from the Prosperity as Captain Bradley continued his delaying tactics while providing intelligence updates to naval forces monitoring the situation. His reports indicated that the pirates had separated the civilian passengers from the regular crew members, a development that suggested they understood the higher ransom value of the humanitarian workers compared to maritime personnel. The civilians are being held separately in the ship's conference room, Bradley reported during one brief transmission before pirate guards cut off his communication access. They appear unharmed but are obviously frightened. The pirates are demanding course changes that will take us into territorial waters within 4 hours. Ghost worked frantically to maintain communication links with the hijacked vessel while coordinating with intelligence agencies that were attempting to intercept pirate communications and gather additional information about their intentions and capabilities. His technical skills allowed the rescue forces to monitor developments aboard the Prosperity in near real time, providing crucial intelligence for mission planning. The tactical challenges facing any rescue operation were formidable and multifaceted. The pirates had positioned themselves to control all access routes to the vessel while maintaining the ability to harm hostages if rescue forces attempted to intervene. Their weapons capabilities included heavy machine guns and explosive devices that could sink the ship if they determined that capture was inevitable. Rodriguez assembled his team for a detailed mission briefing as authorization for the rescue operation worked its way through the chain of command. The complexity of the tactical situation required careful coordination between multiple units, including naval vessels that would provide fire support and evacuation capabilities for rescued hostages. This is a time-sensitive operation with multiple variables that could change rapidly, Rodriguez explained to his assembled team. Our primary objective is the safe recovery of all hostages.
Secondary objectives include the capture or elimination of pirate forces and the prevention of the vessel's arrival at enemy-controlled territory. The mission planning process revealed the extent to which modern piracy had evolved beyond the romanticized image of individual criminals operating from small boats. Hassan's organization possessed sophisticated communication equipment, advanced weapons systems, and tactical knowledge that reflected extensive experience in maritime hostage operations. They had developed countermeasures for standard rescue tactics and maintained networks of support vessels that could complicate any intervention attempt. Zoe volunteered for the mission with an intensity that surprised even her teammates, though she continued to conceal her personal connection to the situation. Her analytical skills and technical training made her valuable for intelligence gathering and communication intercepts, but she also possessed knowledge about Dylan's background and capabilities that could prove crucial if hostage negotiations became necessary. Hartwell's intelligence analysis has been exceptional during our previous operations, Rodriguez noted during the mission assignment process. Her ability to process complex information and identify tactical opportunities will be valuable for this operation. The team began intensive preparation for what would be their most challenging mission to date. The combination of time pressure, hostile environment, and high-value hostages created a situation that demanded flawless execution while accepting minimal margin for error. Every aspect of the operation would need to be coordinated precisely to maximize the chances of success while minimizing risks to both hostages and rescue personnel. Equipment selection focused on stealth capabilities and non-lethal options that could neutralize pirate forces without endangering hostages who might be in close proximity to enemy personnel. The team would carry specialized weapons designed for close quarters combat, along with breaching charges that could create access points without causing structural damage that might sink the vessel. Communication equipment included encrypted systems that would allow real-time coordination with naval forces, providing support for the operation. Ghost's technical expertise would be crucial for maintaining contact with command authorities while gathering intelligence about pirate movements and hostage conditions throughout the mission. The infiltration plan called for the team to approach the hijacked vessel using inflatable boats launched from a submarine positioned beyond the detection range of pirate lookouts. The approach would be conducted during pre-dawn hours when visibility was minimal and pirate vigilance was likely to be reduced due to fatigue and routine. Zoe's role in the mission involved electronic warfare capabilities that could disrupt pirate communications while providing intelligence updates to the rest of the team. Her equipment included sophisticated monitoring devices that could intercept radio transmissions and identify the locations of enemy personnel throughout the vessel. As the final mission briefing concluded and the team prepared for deployment, Zoe found herself thinking about Dylan's dismissive comments about weekend warriors and real responsibility. The irony was not lost on her that his safety now depended on the military capabilities he had questioned and the teammates whose dedication he had failed to understand. The submarine journey to the operational area provided time for final equipment checks and mental preparation for what promised to be an extremely dangerous mission. The team members each dealt with pre-mission stress in their own ways, some through humor and conversation, others through quiet contemplation of the challenges ahead. Rodriguez used the transit time to review contingency plans and ensure that every team member understood their role in various scenarios that might develop during the operation. His leadership style emphasized thorough preparation combined with tactical flexibility, allowing the team to adapt quickly to changing circumstances without losing sight of their primary objectives. The intelligence updates received during the submarine transit painted an increasingly urgent picture of the situation aboard the Prosperity. Hassan's forces had accelerated their timeline and were driving the vessel toward coastal waters more aggressively than initial estimates had suggested. The window for interdiction was closing rapidly, adding pressure to an already complex tactical situation. Latest satellite imagery shows the target vessel approximately 90 minutes from territorial waters, Rodriguez announced during the final mission update. "We have one opportunity to execute this operation successfully. There will be no second chances." As the submarine reached the launch position and the team prepared to deploy their infiltration boats, Zoe understood that the next few hours would test everything she had learned about herself and her capabilities during SEAL training. The mission would also determine whether her relationship with Dylan could survive the revelation that his life had been saved by the sister he had dismissed as a weekend warrior playing at being a soldier. The inflatable assault boats cut through the black water like phantoms, their electric motors producing barely a whisper as they approached the hijacked Prosperity under cover of darkness. Zoe's heart hammered against her body armor as she gripped her weapon, the specialized HK-4160 assault rifle configured for close-quarters combat aboard maritime vessels. The night vision goggles transformed the ocean into an eerie green landscape where the cargo ship loomed ahead like a floating fortress bristling with hostile intent. Rodriguez's voice crackled through their encrypted communication system, his words measured and calm despite the enormity of what they were attempting. Visual contact with target vessel. Count 4 sentries on deck, 2 forward positions, 2 out. Thermal imaging shows concentrated heat signatures in the superstructure, likely hostage location. The intelligence gathered during their approach confirmed the worst aspects of their tactical assessment. Hassan's pirates had positioned themselves with professional competence, establishing overlapping fields of fire that would make any conventional assault extremely costly. The sentries moved with discipline and alertness that suggested extensive combat experience, not the disorganized criminals that maritime security forces sometimes encountered in these waters. Zoe's specialized equipment detected multiple radio frequencies emanating from the vessel, indicating sophisticated communication networks that connected the boarding party with shore-based coordinators and support vessels positioned beyond the immediate area. Her electronic warfare capabilities would be crucial for disrupting these communications at the moment of assault, preventing the pirates from calling for reinforcements or executing contingency plans that might endanger the hostages. Ghost maneuvered their boat into position beneath the Prosperity's starboard side, using the vessel's own bulk to shield their approach from pirate lookouts. His technical expertise had identified a maintenance access point that would allow the team to board without triggering the alarm systems that Hassan's organization had undoubtedly installed to detect rescue attempts. Breaching point secured, Ghost whispered into his communications headset as he attached climbing equipment to the ship's hull. No electronic surveillance detected at this location. We have a clean entry route to the engineering space. The climbing phase of the infiltration tested every aspect of the team's training and conditioning. They had to ascend the ship's side while carrying full combat loads, moving silently despite the weight of weapons, ammunition, and specialized equipment necessary for the mission. Zoe's upper body strength, developed through months of brutal SEAL training, allowed her to keep pace with her teammates as they scaled the vertical surface. The ship's engineering spaces provided concealment for their initial penetration, but also presented navigation challenges in the maze of pipes, machinery, and maintenance areas that comprised the vessel's mechanical system. Reaper took point during this phase, his explosive expertise making him valuable for identifying structural elements that could be used for breaching operations if the tactical situation required rapid movement between compartments. Intelligence updates received through their satellite communication links painted an increasingly urgent picture of the situation developing above them. The pirates had begun moving hostages to different locations within the ship, possibly in response to their suspicions about rescue operations or as part of their standard security procedures when approaching coastal water. Hostage movement detected, Rodriguez reported after receiving updated thermal imaging from supporting aircraft. Primary group has been relocated to the ship's bridge area. Secondary group remains in the conference room amidships. We have a more complex tactical picture than originally assumed. The news that hostages had been separated into multiple locations fundamentally altered the mission parameters and required immediate revision of their assault plan. Instead of a single coordinated attack on one location, the team would need to execute simultaneous operations against multiple targets while maintaining communication and mutual support across different areas of the ship. Zoe found herself assigned to the team element tasked with securing the bridge area, where thermal imaging suggested that 4 hostages were being held under guard by at least 3 armed pirates. The tactical challenge was complicated by the bridge's elevated position and limited access routes, factors that gave defending forces significant advantages while creating multiple opportunities for hostages to be harmed during any assault. Bridge team will approach through the superstructure access corridors, Rodriguez explained during their hurried tactical conference in the ship's engineering space. Entry will be coordinated with the conference room assault to prevent communication between pirate groups that might trigger hostage execution. The movement through the ship's interior passages required absolute silence and perfect coordination as the team navigated toward their objective area. Every step had to be planned and executed with precision, as a single misstep or unexpected noise could alert the pirates to their presence and trigger the violent response that would almost certainly result in hostage casualties. Zoe's electronic warfare equipment provided continuous monitoring of pirate communications as they moved through the ship, her specialized gear translating intercepted radio transmissions and providing real-time intelligence about enemy movements and intentions. The pirates were maintaining regular contact with their shore-based coordinators, reporting their progress toward coastal waters and receiving instructions about ransom demands and hostage management. Communications intercept indicates the pirates are planning to transfer hostages to shore facilities within the next 2 hours, Zoe whispered to Rodriguez as they paused outside the bridge access corridor. They're discussing separation protocols that suggest individual hostages will be held at different locations to complicate rescue operations. The intelligence revelation added urgency to their mission timeline while confirming the sophisticated nature of Hassan's criminal organization. The separation of hostages into multiple secure locations was a tactic designed to maximize ransom leverage while minimizing the effectiveness of military rescue operations. Once the hostages reached shore-based facilities, any rescue attempt would require extensive resources and accept significant risks of casualties among both hostages and rescue personnel. Rodriguez made the decision to accelerate their assault timeline, understanding that delay would only worsen the tactical situation facing the hostages. His experience in multiple combat environments had taught him to recognize moments when bold action was preferable to cautious planning, and the current situation clearly demanded immediate intervention despite the risks involved. All teams, we are advancing timeline for simultaneous assault, Rodriguez announced through their encrypted communications network. Initiate final approach to assault positions. Execute on my command in 60 seconds. The final approach to the bridge required Zoe and her teammate Bulldog to navigate a narrow corridor that provided no cover or concealment if they were detected by pirate sentries. Their movement had to be perfectly coordinated with the actions of the other team elements to ensure that all assaults began simultaneously and prevented communication between separated pirate groups. Zoe's heart rate spiked as they reached the bridge access door, her training taking over as she prepared for the moment when planning would give way to violent action. The electronic monitoring equipment indicated that at least 4 individuals were present on the bridge, with communication patterns suggesting that 3 were armed guards while 1 was likely a hostage who was being used to operate the ship's navigation equipment. The realization that one of those hostages might be Dylan sent a surge of adrenaline through her system that threatened to compromise her professional objectivity. She forced herself to focus on tactical procedures and mission objectives, understanding that emotional reactions could endanger not just her brother but all the hostages whose lives depended on flawless execution of their rescue plan. Bridge team in position, Zoe reported through her communications headset as she and Bulldog prepared their breaching charges and assault equipment, ready to execute on command. The seconds before assault stretched into eternity as she waited for Rodriguez's command to initiate the coordinated attack. Her weapon was ready, her breaching charges were positioned, and her mind was focused on the immediate tactical requirements of clearing hostile forces from the bridge while protecting any hostages who might be in the line of fire. Execute, 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 Rodriguez's voice cut through the communications network with crisp authority. The breaching charges detonated simultaneously across the ship as both assault teams initiated their attacks against the separated pirate group. Zoe and Bulldog burst through the bridge door in perfect coordination, their movements choreographed through countless hours of training and refined by the brutal selection process that had eliminated those who lacked the precision and aggression necessary for special operations warfare. The bridge erupted in chaos as flashbang grenades disoriented the pirate guards while the assault team engaged targets with the methodical efficiency that characterized SEAL operations. Zoe's training took over completely as she identified hostile forces and engaged them with controlled bursts of automatic weapons fire that neutralized threats while minimizing risks to hostages who might be in proximity to enemy personnel. Through the chaos and violence of the assault, she caught sight of a familiar figure pressed against the bridge windows, hands zip-tied behind his back and face showing the strain and terror of someone who had spent hours as a hostage aboard a vessel controlled by armed criminals. Dylan's eyes met hers across the smoke-filled bridge, his expression shifting from fear to amazement as he recognized his sister beneath the night vision goggles and tactical gear. The firefight lasted less than 30 seconds, but the intensity of combat compressed time and experience into moments that would be remembered with crystal clarity for the rest of their lives. When the smoke cleared and the immediate threats had been neutralized, Zoe found herself standing over the bound figure of her brother, the man who had dismissed her military service as weekend warrior theatric. "Dylan," she said simply as she cut his restraints with the tactical knife that had become second nature during her SEAL training. "Are you hurt?" His response was barely audible through the emotional shock of rescue and recognition. "Zoe, how are you here? I thought you were National Guard." The question would have been amusing under different circumstances, but the mission was far from complete and there would be time for explanations once all hostages were secured and the ship was under friendly control. Reports from the other assault team indicated successful neutralization of pirate forces in the conference room area, with 3 additional hostages recovered safely and no friendly casualties during the coordinated assault. All hostages secure, Rodriguez reported through the communications network as the team consolidated their positions and began processing the captured vessel. Pirate forces neutralized or captured. Commence evacuation procedure. The evacuation phase proved to be as complex as the assault itself, requiring careful coordination with naval forces that had moved into position to provide fire support and medical assistance for the rescued hostages. The Prosperity would need to be sailed to a friendly port under military escort, while the hostages required medical evaluation and debriefing about their experiences during captivity. Dylan's condition was stable but showed the psychological impact of his ordeal. The confident businessman who had questioned his sister's military commitment, replaced by someone who had experienced the brutal reality of modern piracy and the life-or-death stakes that characterized the world where she had chosen to serve. His rescue had been accomplished by the very military capabilities he had dismissed, executed by teammates whose dedication and competence he had failed to understand. As the rescued hostages were transferred to the supporting naval vessel for medical evaluation and transportation to safety, Dylan sought out Zoe during a brief moment when her duties allowed for personal conversation. His words carried a humility that had been absent during their previous encounters, the arrogance of someone who had never faced genuine mortal danger replaced by gratitude and newfound respect. "I owe you my life," Dylan said quietly as they stood together on the deck of the rescue vessel. "I was wrong about everything I said before. You and your teammates, you're the real deal. I never understood what that meant until tonight." The conversation represented a fundamental shift in their relationship. The competitive dynamic that had characterized their adult interactions transformed by the shared experience of genuine crisis and professional military response. Dylan had seen his sister performing at the highest levels of military competence, executing a mission that required every skill developed during her SEAL training. Zoe's response reflected the maturity and perspective that came from testing herself against the absolute limits of human capability and proving worthy of inclusion in an elite military unit, whose standards accepted no compromise with excellence. Her brother's approval was gratifying, but it was no longer necessary for her sense of self-worth or professional identity. "You would have done the same for me," she replied simply, understanding that family loyalty transcended professional disagreements or personal competition. That's what family does for each other. The mission debrief revealed the extent to which the rescue operation had disrupted Hassan's criminal organization and demonstrated the effectiveness of international military cooperation against maritime piracy. Intelligence gathered during the assault provided valuable information about pirate networks and operational methods that would be used to plan future counter-piracy operations throughout the region. Rodriguez's evaluation of Zoe's performance during the mission was unqualified praise for her technical competence and tactical judgment under extreme pressure. Her electronic warfare capabilities had proven crucial for mission success, while her ability to maintain professional focus despite personal involvement demonstrated the psychological resilience that characterized successful special operations personnel. Hartwell's performance during this operation was exemplary, Rodriguez noted in his after-action report. Her technical skills and tactical judgment contributed significantly to mission success, and her ability to function effectively under personal stress demonstrates the mental toughness required for continued special operations service. The recognition from her teammates and commanding officers validated the choices Zoe had made during her transformation from National Guard logistics specialist to Navy SEAL operator. The skills and capabilities she had developed through brutal training and demanding operational experience had proven their worth in the most challenging circumstances imaginable. For Dylan, the rescue represented more than just survival. It was an education in the realities of military service and the dedication required of those who choose to serve in the most demanding role. His previous dismissal of military capabilities as bureaucratic theater had been replaced by genuine understanding of the competence and commitment required for special operations success. The weeks following the rescue brought changes to both siblings' understanding of their relationship and their respective career paths. Dylan used his experience to become an advocate for improved maritime security and international cooperation against piracy, while Zoe continued her service with SEAL Team 6, with enhanced confidence in her abilities and clearer understanding of her motivations for military service. Their father Frank's reaction to news of the rescue operation reflected the pride of a career military officer whose daughter had proven herself worthy of the most elite units in the American Armed Forces. His understanding of the challenges involved in SEAL training and operations gave him particular appreciation for Zoe's achievement in not just completing the program but excelling in operational deployment. Linda Hartwell's response combined relief at Dylan's safe recovery with continued anxiety about Zoe's exposure to danger in her special operations role. The successful rescue mission had demonstrated her daughter's competence and effectiveness, but it had also highlighted the very real risks that came with SEAL team assignments in hostile environments around the world. The transformation in Dylan and Zoe's relationship became evident during family gatherings, where their previous competitive dynamic had been replaced by mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's professional activity.
Dylan's business success remained important to him, but he had gained perspective about the different ways people could contribute to society and serve purposes larger than personal advancement. Zoe's confidence in her chosen career path was reinforced by the validation of her capabilities under the most demanding circumstances possible. The rescue mission had tested every aspect of her training and preparation, demonstrating that her transformation from weekend warrior to elite special operations personnel was complete and genuine. The debriefing room at Naval Base Norfolk buzzed with activity as intelligence analysts processed the wealth of information recovered during the Prosperity rescue operation. Maps covered every available wall surface, displaying the complex network of pirate bases, communication routes, and financial operations that Hassan's organization had established throughout the Horn of Africa. Zoe sat across from Dylan at a conference table laden with classified documents, watching her brother absorb the scope and sophistication of the criminal enterprise that had held him captive. "I had no idea," Dylan said quietly, studying satellite photographs of fortified compounds scattered across remote coastlines.
When they first boarded our ship, I thought we were dealing with desperate criminals making opportunistic attacks. This is a multinational corporation built around kidnapping and extortion. Admiral Rebecca Morrison, the task force commander responsible for counter-piracy operations in the region, had requested Dylan's participation in the intelligence debriefing due to his first-hand observations of pirate operations and his expertise in maritime logistics. His civilian perspective provided valuable insights into the business aspects of Hassan's criminal organization that military analysts might have overlooked. Your brother's information has already led to the identification of 3 previously unknown support vessels and 2 onshore facilities, Admiral Morrison explained to Zoe during a brief break in the debriefing session. His understanding of shipping logistics helped us recognize patterns in pirate operations that our intelligence teams had missed. The weeks following the rescue had brought unexpected developments in both siblings' professional lives. Dylan's experience as a hostage had transformed him from a logistics coordinator focused primarily on efficient cargo movement into an advocate for comprehensive maritime security reform. His detailed knowledge of shipping operations, combined with his recent exposure to pirate tactics, made him a valuable consultant for international organizations working to combat maritime crime. Zoe's performance during the rescue operation had earned recognition that extended far beyond her immediate SEAL team. The successful recovery of all hostages without casualties had become a textbook example of special operations excellence, studied by military units throughout the world as a demonstration of how proper planning, flawless execution, and advanced technology could overcome seemingly impossible tactical challenges. Rodriguez approached their table carrying a thick folder of mission analysis reports and commendation recommendations that had been flowing through military channels since news of the operation reached Pentagon officials. His expression mixed professional satisfaction with the quiet pride that came from leading a team that had performed beyond even the elevated expectations that applied to SEAL operations. "Hartwell, you've got some decisions to make about your career trajectory," Rodriguez announced as he settled into a chair beside them. "The success of this operation has generated interest from special operations commands throughout the military. You're being considered for advanced training programs and leadership positions that could significantly accelerate your professional development." The opportunities being offered represented the kind of career advancement that typically required years of additional service and multiple successful deployments. Zoe's performance during the rescue had demonstrated not just technical competence, but the leadership potential and operational judgment that special operations commanders valued above all other qualifications. Among the options being presented was selection for the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, an elite unit within the SEAL community that conducted the most sensitive and challenging missions assigned to American Special Operations Force. Acceptance would require additional training and evaluation, but success would place her among the most capable military personnel in the world. Another possibility involved assignment to a joint task force developing new tactics and technologies for maritime counterterrorism operations. The position would allow her to apply lessons learned during the Prosperity Rescue to improve the capabilities of international naval forces operating in piracy-affected regions. A third option focused on training and education roles that would allow her to share her expertise with the next generation of special operations personnel. The position would be based at the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, where she could influence the development of candidates who would eventually face challenges similar to those she had overcome. Dylan listened to the discussion of his sister's career options with fascination and growing respect for the complexity and significance of the choices facing military personnel at the highest levels of competence. His own career decisions had always focused on maximizing financial compensation and professional advancement within the business world, but he was beginning to understand that military service involved considerations that extended far beyond personal benefit. "Which option interests you most?" Dylan asked during a pause in the conversation, his question reflecting genuine curiosity about how military personnel evaluated opportunities that involved significant personal risk and sacrifice in service of larger institutional goals. Zoe's response demonstrated the thoughtful approach to career planning that had characterized her transformation from National Guard weekend warrior to elite special operations professional. Each option offered unique advantages and challenges, but her decision would be based on where she could make the greatest contribution to mission success and team effectiveness. "The Joint Task Force position appeals to me because it would allow direct application of operational experience to improve capabilities for future missions," she explained. "The lessons we learned during your rescue could help other teams save lives in similar situations. That feels like the most meaningful way to build on what we accomplished." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Elena Vasquez, a State Department negotiator who had been monitoring the diplomatic implications of the rescue operation. Her presence indicated that the success of the mission had attracted attention from policymakers who were interested in expanding similar capabilities for responding to international crises. Ms. Hartwell, your operation has generated significant interest among our international partners, Vasquez explained as she joined their discussion. Several allied nations are requesting information about the tactics and technologies that made the rescue possible. There may be opportunities for you to participate in training exchanges that would enhance global counter-piracy capability. The international dimension of her potential assignments reflected the reality that modern security challenges required cooperation between multiple nations and military service. Zoe's expertise could contribute to developing standardized procedures and shared capabilities that would improve the effectiveness of international responses to maritime crime and terror. Frank and Linda Hartwell arrived at the base for what had become an extended family reunion centered around Zoe's recognition and Dylan's recovery. Their parents' presence provided perspective on how the recent events had affected the entire family, not just the siblings who had directly experienced the crisis and its resolution. I never imagined when you kids were growing up that I'd be sitting in a Navy briefing room, discussing international counterterrorism operations, Frank observed with a mixture of pride and amazement. Your mother and I knew you were both capable of significant achievements, but this goes beyond anything we could have predicted. Linda's response reflected the complex emotions of a mother who was proud of her daughter's accomplishments, while remaining concerned about the risks associated with continued special operations service. The successful rescue had demonstrated Zoe's competence and effectiveness, but it had also highlighted the dangers that came with SEAL team assignments. I'm incredibly proud of what you accomplished, Linda said to Zoe during a private conversation away from the official briefing. But I also worry about what comes next. This mission worked out perfectly, but you're going to face situations where the outcomes might not be so positive. How do you prepare mentally for that kind of uncertainty? The question touched on fundamental aspects of military service that civilian family members often struggled to understand. Special operations personnel accepted risks that could result in mission failure, personal injury, or death, understanding that such possibilities were inherent in the challenges they volunteered to face. Zoe's response reflected the maturity and perspective that had developed through her training and operational experience. She understood her mother's concerns while recognizing that her commitment to military service was based on values and purposes that transcended personal safety considerations. The training prepares you for the reality that not every mission will be successful, Zoe explained. But it also teaches you that the attempt to serve something larger than yourself is worthwhile regardless of the outcome. The people we rescued, including Dylan, are alive because our team was willing to accept those risks. That makes everything else secondary. The family dynamics had shifted significantly since the barbecue confrontation that had triggered Zoe's decision to pursue SEAL training. Dylan's dismissive attitude toward military service had been replaced by genuine appreciation for the capabilities and dedication required for special operations success. The competitive tension between the siblings had evolved into mutual respect and support for each other's professional achievement. Their father's perspective as a retired Coast Guard officer provided valuable context for understanding how the rescue operation fit into the broader pattern of military service and sacrifice that had characterized American responses to international challenges. His experience gave him particular appreciation for the teamwork and preparation that had made the mission possible. What you and your team accomplished represents the best traditions of military service, Frank told his daughter during one of their conversations about her future career plan. You've proven that individual excellence combined with team effectiveness can overcome challenges that seem impossible. That's something to build a career around. The recognition ceremony held at Naval Base Norfolk brought together military personnel, government officials, and family members to acknowledge the significance of the Prosperity Rescue and its implications for future counter-piracy operations. The event provided an opportunity for public recognition of special operations capabilities while maintaining the security requirements that surrounded much of SEAL team activity. Admiral Morrison's remarks during the ceremony emphasized the broader strategic importance of successful counter-piracy operations and the role that elite military units played in protecting international commerce and humanitarian. The rescue had demonstrated American capabilities while strengthening international cooperation against maritime crime. The men and women of this SEAL team have shown that criminal organizations, regardless of their sophistication and resources, cannot operate with impunity against American citizens and international humanitarian efforts. Admiral Morrison declared to the assembled audience. Their success sends a clear message that piracy and hostage-taking will be met with decisive military response. Dylan's presence at the ceremony as both a rescued hostage and a witness to his sister's transformation provided a unique perspective on the personal and professional dimensions of military service. His remarks during the reception following the formal ceremony reflected his evolved understanding of what motivated people to pursue careers that involved significant personal risk in service of larger purpose. 6 months ago, I thought I understood what real responsibility and leadership looked like, Dylan said during an impromptu speech to the assembled guests. I was wrong. Watching my sister and her teammates risk their lives to save people they'd never met taught me that true leadership isn't about managing business operations or maximizing profit. It's about being willing to put yourself in harm's way for principles and people that matter more than your personal comfort or safety. The speech represented a complete reversal of the attitudes Dylan had expressed during their family barbecue confrontation. His experience as a hostage and witness to military professionalism had fundamentally altered his perspective on service, sacrifice, and the different ways people could contribute to society. Zoe's response to her brother's public recognition was characteristically modest, reflecting the team-oriented culture that pervaded Special Operations Unit. Her individual achievements were inseparable from the collective capabilities of her teammates and the institutional support that had made their success possible. This mission succeeded because of the dedication and competence of every person involved, from the submarine crew that delivered us to the target area, to the intelligence analysts who provided the information we needed for tactical planning. Zoe explained during her own remark, individual recognition is gratifying, but the real achievement belongs to everyone who contributed to bringing those hostages home safe. The months following the ceremony brought continued opportunities for both siblings to apply their experience in ways that contributed to improved international security and humanitarian operations. Dylan's consulting work helped shipping companies develop more effective security protocols, while his advocacy efforts supported legislation designed to strengthen international cooperation against maritime crime. Zoe's assignment to the Joint Task Force developing enhanced counter-piracy capabilities allowed her to work directly with military personnel from allied nations, sharing the tactical innovations and technological applications that had made the Prosperity rescue possible. Her expertise contributed to training programs that improved the readiness of naval forces operating in piracy-affected regions throughout the world. The professional relationship that developed between the siblings reflected their transformed understanding of each other's capabilities and motivation. Dylan's business expertise proved valuable for understanding the economic aspects of piracy and developing strategies that addressed the financial incentives driving maritime crime. Zoe's military experience provided insights into the operational requirements for successful rescue missions and the international cooperation necessary for effective counter-piracy efforts. Their collaboration on a comprehensive study of maritime security challenges demonstrated how different types of expertise could be combined to address complex international problems. The report they produced became required reading for policymakers and military personnel responsible for protecting global shipping routes and humanitarian operations. Frank Hartwell's pride in his children's achievements was evident during family gatherings where conversation naturally turned to their professional accomplishments and the recognition they had received for their contributions to international security. His military background gave him particular appreciation for the significance of Zoe's advancement within the special operations community and Dylan's transformation from skeptical businessman to committed advocate for maritime security reform. You've both found ways to serve purposes larger than yourselves, Frank observed during one of their discussions about future career plans. That's what I hoped for when you were growing up, but I never could have predicted the specific paths you'd take or the impact you'd have. Linda's concerns about the risks associated with Zoe's continued special operations service were balanced by her recognition that her daughter had found a career that fully utilized her capabilities and provided meaningful contributions to national security. The successful rescue had demonstrated that proper training and preparation could minimize risks while maximizing the effectiveness of military intervention. The annual family barbecue held 1 year after the rescue operation provided an opportunity to reflect on how dramatically their relationships and perspectives had changed. The competitive tension that had once characterized Dylan and Zoe's interactions had been replaced by genuine collaboration and mutual support for each other's professional goals. Dylan's remarks during the gathering acknowledged how his understanding of leadership and responsibility had evolved through his experience as a hostage and his subsequent work in maritime security. His previous dismissal of military service as bureaucratic theater had been replaced by deep appreciation for the competence and dedication required for special operations success. I used to think that taking business risks and building successful companies represented the highest form of leadership, Dylan said as the family gathered around the same table where their confrontation had occurred a year earlier. I was measuring everything by the wrong standard. Real leadership is about being willing to risk everything for people and principles that matter more than personal advancement. Zoe and her teammates do that every day. Zoe's response reflected the confidence and perspective that had developed through her successful transformation from National Guard logistics specialist to elite special operations professional. Her brother's approval was gratifying, but it was no longer necessary for her sense of self-worth or professional identity. We all serve in different ways, she replied simply. Your work protecting civilian shipping is just as important as military operations. The goal is finding where you can make the greatest contribution and having the courage to commit fully to that purpose. The conversation represented a complete transformation of their relationship, from competitive siblings pursuing separate career paths, to collaborative partners working toward shared goals of improved international security and humanitarian protection. Their different skills and perspectives had proven complementary rather than competitive. As the evening progressed and extended family members shared updates about their own lives and careers, the rescue story became part of family lore that would be retold at future gatherings. But for Dylan and Zoe, the mission represented more than just an exciting adventure or professional achievement. It had fundamentally altered their understanding of service, sacrifice, and the bonds that connected them as family members and fellow contributors to larger purposes. The sunset over the Chesapeake Bay painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples as the family gathering concluded, providing a peaceful backdrop for reflection on how much had changed since their last barbecue together. The competitive dynamic that had once defined their relationship had evolved into something deeper and more meaningful based on mutual respect and shared commitment to making positive contributions to the world around them. Zoe's transformation from weekend warrior to elite special operations professional was complete, validated not just by her successful performance during the rescue mission but by the ongoing recognition of her capabilities within the special operations community. Her brother's dismissive comments about playing soldier had been proven spectacularly wrong, but more importantly, she had discovered her own capacity for growth and achievement under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. Dylan's evolution from skeptical businessman to passionate advocate for maritime security reform represented his own form of personal transformation, triggered by his experience as a hostage, but sustained by his growing understanding of how individual actions could contribute to larger purposes. His rescue had been accomplished by the very military capabilities he had once dismissed, but his response was to embrace rather than resist the implications of that reality. The ripple effects of their shared experience continued to influence both their professional development and their relationship with each other. The rescue mission had demonstrated that individual courage and team excellence could overcome seemingly impossible challenges, but it had also shown how personal growth and transformation were possible at any stage of life when people were willing to confront their limitations and embrace new possibilities. As they prepared to return to their respective careers and responsibilities, both siblings carried with them the lessons learned through crisis, rescue, and recognition. For Zoe, the experience had validated her decision to pursue the most challenging path possible within military service, while providing confidence that she could succeed at the highest levels of special operations. For Dylan, it had fundamentally altered his understanding of leadership, responsibility, and the different ways people could serve purposes larger than personal advancement. The family bonds that had been strained by competitive tension and mutual misunderstanding had been strengthened through shared crisis and mutual recognition of each other's capabilities and character. Their relationship would continue to evolve as they pursued their separate career paths, but it would always be anchored by the memory of a night when professional competence, personal courage, and family loyalty had combined to overcome seemingly impossible odds. The weekend warrior had become an elite special operations professional. The dismissive brother had become a grateful advocate for military excellence, and both had discovered that transformation was possible when people were willing to test themselves against their own limitations and emerge stronger for the experience. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.